Recess taken from 11:38 a.m. to 11:57 a.m. Videographer. We're back on the record at 11:57. Miss Menninger, how long were you at the El Brillo home on that first day you went? Over 2 hours. Okay, and who took you home? One Alessi. And what car was he driving? I believe it was a black Suburban. Did anyone else ride in the car with you? Just one. What time approximately did you get home? 8:30 approximately. Was it dark? Yes. Who else was at home when you got home? My mum, my dad, and my brother. Which brother? Sky. And anyone else who was there at the time? I believe Michael might have been living with me at that time, so he might have been there. Do you recall if he was there when you got home? I don't really remember. I remember what I did when I got home, that I basically made a beeline for the bathroom. Let me ask you a question. Michael was living with you at that home, at your parents' home at the time. Is your best recollection today, is that right? That's my best recollection, yes. When you say living with you, were you guys staying in the same room? Yes. Were you engaged at the time to him? That was a really weird relationship. He was a friend who looked after me, and he did propose to me, and I did say yes, but my heart was never in it. He was somebody that helped me off the streets, so I felt compelled to say yes to him. Okay, so when he proposed to you and you said yes, did that take place before you started working at Mar-a-Lago or after you started working at Mar-a-Lago? Before. And so if he were living with your parents at that time, you were living in the same room, is that correct? I believe so. And your parents understood him to be your fiancé? I don't think they agreed with it, but I think they understood it as that. I mean, you communicated to them that he had proposed and you had accepted. Yeah, in not such a pretty way. I mean, they obviously weren't very happy about it. And it wasn't my intentions to ever marry him. Okay. But I did it to make him feel okay. I didn't want to be mean. What did your mum say about your engagement to blank? Oh, they never thought it was going to go forward either. When you got home, you said you made a beeline for the bathroom. Correct. And what did you do in the bathroom? I showered. Okay, did you have a conversation with anyone prior to going to the bathroom? My mum came in to the bathroom and she asked me how it went. And I told her I'd rather not talk about it. And she didn't push me any further for any more conversation. Okay, and then she left the bathroom. She left the bathroom. Did anyone overhear that conversation? No, the door was closed. Was your dad at home? Yes. Did you have a conversation with your dad that night? Not that I remember, no. And did you have any other conversation with your mother that night? No. Did you have any conversation with your brother that night? No, he's 5 years younger than me. It's not something I'd talk to him about. And did you have any conversation with blank that night? I could have. I don't remember having one, but I could have. Did you call any of your friends that night? No. Who were your good friends at that time? Blank. That was really it. I didn't really have many friends. I kept to myself a lot. Did you call blank that night? I don't think blank and I were on and off friends from middle school, and no reason on and off, like we had an argument or something. We just got out of touch. So no, at that time, I don't think I was talking to him. Are you aware of any distinguishing physical features of Ghislaine Maxwell? I can tell you that she had very large natural breasts. I can tell you that her pubic hair was dark brown, nearly black. I don't remember any specific birthmarks or moles that I could point out that would be relevant. Any scar? I don't remember any scars. Any tattoos? No tattoos. When did you next go to the El Brillo house? I believe it would have been the next day. You believe it would have been, or was it? Mr. Edwards, form. I know that it was consecutive, that I continued to go there after the first time that the abuse took place there. It was consecutive that I was there, I believe, over the next course of weeks. What day of the week was the first time you went? I don't know. Do you know whether you went the very next day or not? I believe I did. All right, how did you get there the very next day? Mr. Edwards, form. I believe my dad dropped me off again. When you say you believe, do you recall him doing that, or are you guessing? Well, this is how I figure this. I don't remember Ghislaine picking me up from Mar-a-Lago. I didn't have my own car, so the only way I could have really gotten there would have been my dad picking me up. Dropping me off. Do you have a distinct recollection of your father dropping you off there more than one day in a row? Yes. You do not recall the car he was driving? Like I said, he always drove trucks. That's as good as I can get. And you worked on weekends as well at Mar-a-Lago, or no? No. So the second day would have had to be another weekday, or was it on a weekend? Mr. Edwards, form. I don't know. Do you know if you went after work at Mar-a-Lago? Yes. So you went to work the very next day at Mar-a-Lago? Yes. Did you have a conversation with anyone at Mar-a-Lago about the day before at El Brillo? No. You didn't talk to any of your co-workers about it? No. Who was your boss at the time? No. Did you have a boss at the time? I think Adriana or Adrienne. I don't remember the exact pronunciation of her name, but it's along those lines. I believe she was my boss. And you did not talk to her about it? No. You surmise that your father dropped you off because you can't think of another way you would have gotten there, correct? Correct. And when you came the second day, did your father come to the door? I don't think he came to the door that time. I think I was just dropped off. All right, and what did you do when you got there? Knocked on the door, and who answered the door? Juan Alessi. Okay, was anyone else there besides Juan Alessi? Jeffrey, Ghislaine, and blank. Okay, and where did you see blank? She was downstairs. Did you speak to her? Just introductions. Tell me what you mean by introductions. My name is Virginia, nice to meet you. Her name, she introduced herself as blank, and she told me she was Ghislaine's personal assistant. Did you call yourself Virginia at the time? No, I think I've gone by Jenna for a long time. So did you introduce yourself as Virginia or as Jenna? Most likely Jenna. Do you recall this, or is this something that you're guessing about? Well, considering that everybody knew me as Jenna, I think I would have introduced myself as Jenna. You don't recall it? Mr. Edwards, form. I don't recall the exact answer to that, no, but just knowing I had everybody pretty much call me Jenna. I'm just trying to make a clear record about what you do remember and what you're guessing about. So when you say I think I would have, it leads me to believe you don't recall it. If you mean something different by that, please feel free to clarify. I'm just trying to explain to you what I'm asking. Yes, and I'm doing the very best that I can tell you exactly what it is, but it's just hard for me to remember so long ago. And knowing that I introduced myself as Jenna to everybody leads me to assume that I would have introduced myself to them as Jenna as well. All right, but if we were to speak to blank, she might have a different recollection. Fair to say? Mr. Edwards' form, she could. How is it that you knew to come there on this second day? I was asked to come back. When were you asked to come back? The day before, after the encounter, they told me to come back at the same time after work. Who is they? Giuffre and Ghislaine. Okay, did they both simultaneously say that, or did one of them say it? It was like a conversation that they both had with me separately. Giuffre told me upstairs after the whole entire abuse had happened that he really liked me and he'd like me to come back. When I went downstairs, let me stop you there. Did he say, I want you to come back tomorrow? Yes. Okay, did he tell you what time he wanted you to come back? No, he just said he wants me to come back tomorrow. Okay, and then you went downstairs and what happened? Ghislaine told me I did a really good job and she wants me to come back tomorrow after work. That's what she said, I want you to come back tomorrow after work. Yes. You recall those words being used by her? Yes. Did you ask them for a ride to get there the next day? No. You just said, I'll come back tomorrow. Yeah, I agreed to come back the next day. How did you agree? Verbally. Okay, was anyone else present when Ghislaine said that to you and you responded, I'll come back tomorrow? I believe one Alessi was pretty much within ear distance. Could you see him? Yes. Okay. Like I said, in ear distance, when I mean ear distance, like hearing, in the hearing vicinity. And it was in the same time that she was asking him to drop me off at home. Okay, when you were driving home the first night with Juan Alessi, did you have any conversation with him? No, I had told him my address. It was a very quiet ride. Did you ride in the front or the back? The front. It is your contention that Ghislaine Maxwell had sex with underage girls virtually every day when I was around her, correct? Yes. All right, with whom did Ghislaine Maxwell have sex in your presence? Well, there's a lot of girls that were involved. We weren't on a first name basis with each other. I wouldn't be able to give you a list of the names of girls. It was continuous. It was continuous. Name one girl that Ghislaine Maxwell had sex with in your presence. Emmy Taylor. I mean, that's a name that I know well because Emmy was always around. I'm trying to think of her name. Sorry. Sarah. Her name used to be Sarah Kellen. I think she's changed it now that she's married. Blank. I can't pronounce her last name properly, but it's around those lines. There are a lot of other girls that I honestly can't remember their names. I'm sorry. I wish I could help out more because I really would like to provide more witnesses for this. But I can't remember a lot of the girls' names. So those are the three names of females that you observed Ghislaine Maxwell have sex with. Mr. Edwards. Objection. Mischaracterises testimony. Is that what I understand your answer to be? Objection mischaracterises her testimony. Those are some 3 of the names that I know very well. Like I said, there were a lot more. Okay. Do you know the names of any other girl that you personally observed Ghislaine Maxwell have sex with? Do you mind me taking a minute to just try to reflect? No? Her name is on the tip of my tongue. Her last name is blank. I don't remember her first name off the top of my head. I normally could remember it. Okay. There's just a blur of so many girls. It's really hard for me to remember. And you have to understand we weren't introduced to each other on a first name basis half the time. A lot of these girls would come and go and you'd never see them again. So no, it's very difficult for me to pinpoint exactly who they were. But those 4 that I've given you are 100%. Okay, did you observe Ghislaine Maxwell forcing any of those 4 girls to have sexual contact with her? Mr. Edwards' form. I don't believe that any of the girls involved were truly willing participants, doing it out of their own wanting. I believe we were all there for one purpose, and that was to keep Giuffre and Ghislaine happy and to do our jobs, which was giving them erotic massages and keeping them pleased sexually. Okay, do you know what the word force means? Physical force. If you mean like held down or a gun put to the head, then no. Okay. But force in a word, like a way of coercion, there was definitely indirect threats that you knew these people were powerful. They had a lot of contacts. They were very wealthy. They were people you did not want to cross lines with on a bad way. Okay, what threats did you hear Ghislaine Maxwell state to you? Just the reminders of the prominent people that she knows personally. When did Ghislaine Maxwell remind you about the prominent people that she knows personally? It was on a constant basis. I mean, there was no just one time that she said it. It was like a reminder, you know. And Giuffre did it a lot more than what she did. But she definitely made it aware that we shouldn't cross boundaries with them. Or what would happen. Like I said, it was more of an indirect threat, and it doesn't take an intellect to figure out what they mean when they say that they're powerful people and they're very wealthy and they know a lot of people. I need you to be very clear. You just used the word they. I've asked you about Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, so I just want to make sure you understand the question. Correct? Because I don't want to have you misunderstand the question. Correct? So I'm asking you, what did Ghislaine Maxwell say would happen in regards to crossing a line with respect to her knowledge of famous people? Mr. Edwards, object to the form. Mischaracterises her testimony. You can answer. You wouldn't want to piss us off. You wouldn't want to piss me and Giuffre off. I mean, that's one way of saying it, other than, did she say, you would not want to piss me off? Piss me off is probably my word, using piss, but it was along those lines. I don't remember the exact word that she used. And do you remember a specific occasion on which she said that to you? I remember very early on. Where were you? I believe it was during my, what I call the training period with Giuffre and Ghislaine. Okay, and where were you? For a Pacific, and like I said, it happened a lot, but for one Pacific, I remember being out on the balcony in the house at El Brillo, sitting outside with her. This is when I thought that I didn't know that I had worked for Giuffre immediately. I thought I worked for Ghislaine because she was the one who brought me in, and she was the one offering the majority of the training to me. So yeah, it was on the balcony outside, I believe the yellow room. She said you would not want to piss me off because I know powerful people, or words to that effect. Words to that effect, yes. And did she say what would happen if you pissed her off because she knows powerful people? That statement alone was enough to let me know. I was scared and I didn't want to I didn't want to push any further into that question. I seemed like I would obey. Up until that point in your life, had you met any powerful people? Mr. Edwards, form. I do believe that I've been put in very dangerous situations, being a runaway and having a lot of bad things happen to me. Understanding the word powerful people and things that could happen, I've put two and two together and knew what she meant. Okay, so you had met powerful people before the day that Ghislaine Maxwell said this to you. Is that your testimony? Nowhere near as powerful as Giuffre and Ghislaine. Nowhere near. But people that did scare me, yes. Okay, and you had met those people at what age? I don't know what age I was, I'm sorry. I was young. I was before I met Giuffre and Ghislaine. Is there any girl who you personally observed to have sexual contact with Ghislaine Maxwell when she was under the age of 18? It's very hard to tell how many girls were under the age of 18. My instruction from them was the younger the better. And again, them, who told you that? Them, both of them. Ghislaine did the majority of my training in the beginning. Giuffre also insinuated and told me lots of things as well. Okay, so you don't know the age of any other female that you saw have sexual contact with Ghislaine Maxwell? Mr. Edwards, object. Is that true? Mr. Edwards, object to the form of the question, mischaracterised her testimony. She wasn't finished with her answer. Miss Manager, I wasn't finished with my question when you objected. And at the end of my question, I said, is that true? She can now restate it without you suggesting to her the answer. Mr. Edwards, I have no idea what the question is to even object to at this point. Do you know the question? Do I know any underage girls that Ghislaine slept with? Ms. Manager, can you please read back the question? Record read as requested. Mr. Edwards, hold on. She wasn't finished with her question. She told me. So that's not the finished question. Ms. Manager, you interrupted it. I finished my question. She just read it to her. Can you please answer the question? Mr. Edwards, then I object to that question as a mischaracterization of her testimony, and she wasn't finished with her answer. It is impossible for me to know the ages of all the girls that were sent to Giuffre and Ghislaine. That is my answer. I did not ask you about the girls who were sent to Giuffre and Ghislaine. I asked you about any girl that you personally saw have sexual contact with Ghislaine Maxwell. Do you understand that question? Do I know the ages of them? Do you know the age of any girl that you saw have sexual contact with Ghislaine Maxwell? Well, for instance, blank was, I think, a year older than me. That's one way of putting it. Blank, I think, was like a few years older than me. Blank, again, a few years older than me. Those are the girls that I can actually name. Without not knowing the other girls' names, there's no way for me to identify what age they actually were. Okay, describe for me any other girl other than the ones that you've named who you say you saw have sexual contact with Ghislaine Maxwell with your own two eyes. There's so many, I don't know where you want me to start. I find it impossible to answer that question with the amount of girls that I have witnessed. And without being able to give you specific names, I don't think I'm able to answer that question. Okay, I asked you to describe them, so you could give me a height, a hair colour, anything else that comes to mind? There were blondes, there were brunettes, there were redheads. They were all beautiful girls. I would say the ages ranged between 15 and 21. And why do you believe the ages ranged from 15 to 21? Some of them looked really young. Some of them, I wouldn't say 21 looks old or anything like that, but it's hard to gauge another person's age without really asking them. But some of them looked younger than me, and some of them looked older than me. And in what physical locations did you see Ghislaine Maxwell have sexual contact with any girl? 100% the US VI. Where? Giuffre's Island. Where? In Cabanas. Do you know what I mean by cabana? I do. Thank you. In Cabanas, in Giuffre's room. Describe Giuffre's room on US VI for me. So can I use this as an idea, like if this is the island, can I do that? I'm asking you to describe the inside of a room. Oh, the inside of a room. I thought you meant located. Okay, large, stony. He had a king-size bed with posts on it. There was a large door, I think it's called a door, where you put your clothes. There was an adjacent bathroom with a more stony look. Giant tub. What colour was the paint on the wall? It was stone. What colour was the bedspread? White. What colour were the sheets? White. And you saw Ghislaine Maxwell have sexual contact with an unnamed female in that room. Correct? Absolutely. All right. When were you there that you saw this happen? This happened on so many occasions. The island was a place where orgies were a constant thing that took place. And again, it's impossible to know how many. And like I said, it wasn't just Giuffre's room, it was outside, and you know, it was... When you were outside, did you see Ghislaine Maxwell have sexual contact with a female? When you say sexual contact, does that mean fornicating or down to taking explicit photos or what? Can you define what you mean by sexual contact? Sure. It generally, in my mind, means placing either mouth or intimate parts or hands on the breasts, buttocks or pubic area of another person for sexual gratification. Sure. Did you see Ghislaine Maxwell have sexual contact with a woman outside on the US Virgin Islands? I would say a female. I wouldn't define them as a woman. A woman is someone who is older. But yes, outside by the pool, down by the beach, there's their little, I wouldn't call it a hut, little tiny wooden room that only could fit a bed in it. I'm talking about outside. That's outside. So let's start with by the pool. Yes. Is that a different occasion than the hut? I'm talking about many occasions. Okay, over time. Let's just talk about the ones that you saw happen outside, out of doors. Okay. Okay? Yeah. Do you recall any such specific occasion, or is it just a big blur in your mind? No, I mean, one occasion stands out. Models were, I think they were models, were flown in. There were orgies held outside by the pool. That's one occasion. All right, let's stick with that occasion. Okay. What sexual contact did you observe Ghislaine Maxwell have with a female by the pool at an orgy on the US Virgin Islands? Well, there were quite a few girls, and it was, excuse me if I'm saying this in an inexplicit way, but I don't know how else to say it. So if you don't understand, please let me know. Girl on girl action. So there was a lot of, what's the word for it? Licking vaginas, breasts. Okay, which fingers being used? She was involved with that. I remember specifically I had to go down. Do you know what I mean by go down? It's your testimony, go ahead. I had to go down on Ghislaine. Giuffre was there as well. And we're still by the pool. We're still by the pool with lots of girls. Can you name any of those girls that were there? They didn't even speak English, but this was... Can you describe them physically? Beautiful, tall. Some were blonde, some were sandy brown. They had a foreign tongue. What language were they speaking? I'm not too sure. It could have been Russian. It could have been Czechoslovakian. It could have been, I think it's between those two, to be honest. It could have been something else, but I mean, I don't speak any other language other than English, so I don't really know. All right, any other time you saw Ghislaine Maxwell have sexual contact with another female outdoors in the US Virgin Islands other than this models with the unknown language? Are we talking about besides with me as well? I don't know if you participated. I'm asking if you observed her have sexual contact with another female. Another female other than myself. You can answer it however you want. Well, and the list keeps going on. Ghislaine and I and Giuffre and blank participated in, I guess, what you would call a foursome in the living room in the main house. Okay, I was asking about outdoors, sorry. Oh, well, I don't know if you'd consider this outdoors, but on the beach, where it's basically an outdoor setting. It's like a little wooden house. It's not a house, only a bed can fit in there. It's right on the beach, it's open. Would you consider that outdoors? I have never been there, so I don't know whether it's outdoors or not. I would consider it outdoors. And how old were you at that time? I don't know. Okay. I have no idea. Again, Ghislaine, myself, Giuffre, another girl in this blue outdoor, I don't know what you would want to call it, cabana, that house, just a bed could fit in. How many times did you visit the island? I wouldn't be able to say, lots of times. More than 5? Definitely more than 5. More than 10? More than 10. More than 20? I would say more than 20. More than 50? I don't think more than 50, but I don't have an exact number. I mean, I think if you look at the flight logs, you know that helps, but then they're not fully complete. We only have flight logs to one plane, and then there's a time I was flying commercially into the island. So it's really hard for me to gauge a number. Okay, do you have any photographs of yourself on the island? I know I used to, but they would be left in that apartment. What other locations did you participate in sexual contact with Ghislaine Maxwell other than the island? Everywhere. New York, Palm Beach. Where in New York? The mansion, Giuffre's mansion. Okay, anywhere else in New York? Not at her townhouse. Anywhere else in New York? No. In Palm Beach? At the house in Palm Beach? Anywhere else in Palm Beach? No. In New Mexico? The house in New Mexico? Anywhere else in New Mexico? No. What other countries? France, England. We also, I mean, if we're going to talk about other countries, we've got to talk about international travel space or plane space or whatever you want to call it, because it happened all the time on the planes. Okay. Going from different country to country. Where in France did you have sexual contact with Ghislaine Maxwell? There's a couple of places in France that we used to go to. When you say you used to go to, how many times did you go to France?